The area of the unknown is always larger than the area of the known. And the only way knowledge can expand is by questioning received knowledge. Whatever has been handed down to us as the great knowledge of our sages, everything needs to be questioned. And to illustrate this, I am going to give you one example. I'm sure you are familiar with what I'm going to be speaking about. I'm talking about the myth of Islamic architecture. Now, if I were to ask you, what is Islamic architecture? What are the elements that define Islamic architecture? I'll tell you what you are thinking of already. The dome, no? The arch, and the minaret. Let us look at these three things before we proceed. All of you are young people. All of you are younger than me. All of you spend far more time on Google than I do. Next time you check on Google, type these two words: Roman aqueducts. Roman aqueducts. And select images. And you will have unending images of arches. The Romans first began to use the true arch, and they built them in series. One arch, another arch, another arch, and all of them at the same height, actually slightly decreasing heights. They tapped water from the mountains, and above the arches they built a water channel, aqueduct, the channel for water. And the aqueducts carried water from villages, from mountain streams to settlements where people lived. And this was carried on these series of arches. So that is the first use of the true arch. Before I proceed, I'll give you a definition of an arch. Leonardo da Vinci. I don't think you can get a better definition than that. An arch is strength created by two weaknesses. This half will collapse because this is the base and this is the overhang. This will fall. This will fall. They fall on each other and create that phenomenal strength that gives you the arch. Now this arch was made by the Romans. Pre-Christian Romans. Before the birth of Christ, this arch was there. I've seen a few that were created about 200 years before Christ was born, and many that were created much earlier in a place called Ephesus, which is in, what is this place? Turkey, which is an old Greek town which was taken over by the Romans, and then Romans built there. So that is the beginning of the arch. The arch has nothing whatsoever to do with Muslims. From the arch comes the dome. Actually, if you were to take an arch and put another arch next to it, another arch, series of arches, you will get a vaulted roof. Stand beneath a vaulted roof and look up. What you see is an inverted boat. That is where the idea came from originally. And you take an inverted boat and cut it into slices, you get arches. That is the arch. It was first put together by the Romans. There is a keystone shaped like a wedge, and there are other stones, and the weight is transferred through these stones onto the pillar. The next stage was to take a small arch, build a larger arch next to it, another arch, another arch, another arch, and then start decreasing the sizes of the arches, and you have a dome. The first dome was also built by the Romans. And it was created for an absolutely secular need. The Romans used to elect their leaders. They were known as senators. That's how many parliaments are known as senates. The first senate was created by the Romans. Senators on paper had equal rights. They required a space where everybody had equal status. It is this secular need that led to the evolution of the arch, a covered space without pillars, where every senator could see everybody else. And everybody sat in a circle, so nobody sat at a higher stage. Julius Caesar also sat in the Senate, and his sworn enemy also sat, and they had the same status. So, you know who's Julius Caesar's sworn enemy was? F2? Yes. So, Brutus and Caesar sat together. The dome and the space covered by the dome is first truly democratic architecture, which removes the distances between the higher status and low status. It is this secular need for the senators to be able to debate together at the same level that the dome comes into existence. Judaism as a religion pre-exists the Roman Empire, and Judaism, as you would know, is a congregational religion. There is a priest and others follow. The moment the dome comes into existence, the followers of Judaism said, we can use this. Some of the earliest synagogues began to use the shape of the dome to create their places of worship. After Judaism and the Roman Empire, and actually the Roman Empire was still around when Jesus arrives. Jesus is also, he is the founder of another congregational religion. And they also began to use the dome for prayers. The last in this series of Semitic religions are the Muslims, who are also a congregational religion, and they also use the dome in their mosques. Except the Muslims did not begin using the dome for a very long time. The first mosque that was built by Muhammad. It had no domes, no arches, no minarets. It was made with mud in the desert. So that was much later does the dome become a part of mosque architecture. Now I come to the question that I'm driving to all through. All of you have read from your school days about Islamic architecture. Has any one of you wondered if there is Christian architecture? Have you asked the question? Have you asked the question, is there Hindu architecture? If there is no Hindu architecture, and there isn't, there is Parihar architecture, there is Hoysala architecture, there is Chola architecture, there is Chela architecture, there is the architecture of the Vijayanagar Empire, then there is Rajasthani architecture, Bengali architecture, Gujarati architecture, Ahom architecture, but there is no Hindu architecture. So, if there is no Christian architecture and there is no Muslim architecture, no Christian architecture, how can you have Islamic architecture? When I began speaking, I had said, you have to reject received knowledge. That is the only way knowledge will expand. Stop believing everything that has been written down, unless it appeals to your intellect. Unless you are able to convince yourself, yes, this man makes sense. Otherwise, don't believe it. So you read any number of books on architecture, you will hear of Gothic, you will hear of Neo-Gothic, Classical, Neoclassical, you will hear of Renaissance architecture, you will hear of Baroque architecture, and Surrealist architecture initiated by Salvador Dali, and Dadaism and all that, and every art movement started a movement in architecture. Or you have Russian, Prussian, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Scottish, Irish, English architecture. But there is no Christian architecture. Nobody mentions the beast. It doesn't exist. The dome, we are told, is Islamic. The largest dome in the world, do you know where it is? In the Vatican, where the Pope addresses his devotees, for the devotees of the Roman Catholic tradition. That is the largest dome in the world. There is another very large dome, all of you have seen it. It is in Washington, D.C., on the Capitol Hill. You travel all over the world, you see domes all over Europe. But nobody looks at the dome and says, oh, but that is Islamic. The dome suddenly becomes Islamic when it reaches India or South or Central Asia. The same thing. I don't know if any one of you have traveled to Istanbul. Look for Hagia Sophia. Hagia Sofia. Hagia Sophia. Hagia Sophia is a phenomenally beautiful mosque. Phenomenally beautiful. With a massive dome and 6 or 8 minarets. But look, read up about it. Hagia Sophia was built by the Greek Orthodox Church. It was a Greek Orthodox church. Then came the Roman Catholics, who beat the living daylight out of the Greek Orthodox Church and occupied it, and it became a Roman Catholic church. Then came the Byzantine Muslims, who defeated the Roman Catholics and became a mosque. Same building. Same structure. Nobody has touched it. It is exactly the same. If you build an arch and write Latin on it, will it become Roman Catholic? If you write English on it, will it become English architecture? Or will it become Protestant? And if you were to write the shlokas of the Gita, will it become Hindu? Architecture has no religion. Architecture cannot have religion. Architecture is the response of a people to their environment. What is the level of technology? What is the material available? You put all this together, you have architecture. What is presented to us as Islamic architecture is actually Central Asian architecture. Why don't we call it that? It is Central Asian architecture. It evolved in Turkey and in Iran and then came here in the time of Humayun. Okay? All of you have also read or you have been told that 5 times a day somebody climbs the minaret to call people for prayers. You know which is the first mosque in Delhi that has minarets that you can climb? Jama Masjid. Built by Shah Jahan. Built in 1656, completed in 1656. The first mosque in Delhi was built in 1192. 1192 to 1656, hundreds of mosques were built, quite a few survived. Not one of them has a minaret. And if you don't believe me, go to the Jama Masjid, buy a 50 rupee ticket, carry some friends with you who will sit in the courtyard, you climb up and shout. Your sound will not reach the ground. Sound doesn't travel like that. How sound travels is determined by principles of physics and not by faith in religion. You can't look down from 500 yards and say, come up, nobody can hear you. Only people who are at that height where the minar is, they can hear. The minarets were not built for calling people for prayers. The minarets serve a totally different purpose. Just as there is a steeple in a church and there is a gopuram or a shikhar in a temple. All of us keep on saying, Upar wala dekh raha hai. All ancient civilizations believe, and quite a lot even today believe that there is a God who's upstairs, who's watching everything. Whether you had an extra rasgulla or you cheated on your sister and ate her chocolate, he is keeping track of everything. He has nothing else to do. He is very closely watching 4 billion people and noting down things. He is up there. And everybody wanted to meet him. And that, no wonder that all these sages keep on traveling into the Himalayas to seek God. Because you climb the top of the mountain, you're going to be closer to God. And that is why you place your temples and mosques and churches on top of hills. And when you reach the hill, you realize the heavens have retreated as much as you have climbed up. So then the buildings have to rise vertically. And that is what the minaret, the steeple, and the gopuram of a temple do. They're trying to reach God. None of these jokers know that the world is a sphere and it is not flat. And a sphere suspended in atmosphere, in the space, has nothing above it and nothing below it. Because no matter how tall your gopuram is in Delhi, it will still be beneath the feet of those who live in America. Because they are 160, 180 degrees below us. And no matter how tall a church they build there, it will be below our feet. So all this is based on a wrong understanding of the world we live in. The minarets and all. And then comes an Englishman who writes it out for us and say the minaret is built for calling people for prayers, and this is Islamic architecture. And for last 200 years we have believed all this without questioning because a white man has written it. That is the extent of our intellect being intellectually colonized. So there cannot be Islamic architecture. Then why is everybody talking about it? This is the creation of the other. You had to establish that the Muslims were different from the Goras. Because the Goras have been fighting. This began in the Crusades. That is the beginning of this creation of the other. So you begin with Islamic architecture, then you begin with Islamic music, Islamic dress, and for heaven's sake, Islamic food. What nonsense is this? So essentially this is all I have to say. You need to question. Don't accept anything regardless of what a great God-man he is, how learned he is, how many books he has written. Unless it appeals to your intellect, don't accept it. Thank you.